Erik, thank you as always for the time. How you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
Oh, we're working with reverb now. You really stepped up your podcasting game.
I wish. You know what I mean? I need more people to watch this damn thing, but it is what it is.
I'm actually hearing that from more than just you in terms of the world of comedy. We talk about the stand-up comedy bubble. There may be a stand-up comedian podcasting bubble that's forming right now, though, because everyone has one at this point, right?
Well, I don't mind direct to consumer because that's what it is. So what it's done is it's cut out. So if you have a small fan base, your whole small fan base could find you and they can interact with you directly. Like you don't need some third party or some gatekeeper keeping people from seeing you. So I don't know if there's necessarily a bubble. I think there's a viral bubble because the companies have suppressed that. Like, I don't think Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, they're not allowing anybody to go viral anymore because they want to control that. They don't want to make millionaires because they're like, well, hold on a second. This is our thing. And then, you're using it and to your advantage and what we're not making as much from it or something. It's a weird thing. Like now we're like, it's all about algorithms. It's not even about the followers you have. I mean, to me, it sucks that like your followers don't even see your content. Like these people said, I like this person. Those are that's the content they should see on their thing, but they don't. So I don't know. It's just, so I think that's part of the problem is not that there's like a bubble, but I think there's a viral bubble.
So you've got to use the podcast as just another way to connect with the network for you that already exists, like your fan base, the people who are coming to see you at whatever town you're
Right.
in, the people who love you from all the television that you've done and movies that you've done over the years. That's just another way for you to connect with them. Like I heard Fitzsimmons, I think he was interviewing or he was chatting with Ian Bagg, and he was like, like the advertising thing isn't working. I don't know if it's just a matter of switching to that straight Patreon model where it's like, hey, you're a fan. If you can chip in a couple of extra bucks every month,
Yeah.
I enjoy doing this, and I'd like to think you enjoy listening to it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I have a Patreon. I have a very small, Patreon base because I made some, I have like free people too. But, I mean, again, it's all about your own personal hustle. Like I'm about to spend some money to build because I bought a house and I'm living out in Santa Clarita. And so like I have this extra room and I was like, you know what, let me do a real podcast studio and like do this right, So we'll see if it pays off or not. I don't know. I've been I'm up to 300 some episodes on my podcast and it's still a small podcast in comparison to even the other podcast I'm on, the Golden Hour. But it's just, again, I think, see, like as a content creator, if Instagram said to me, okay, you have to pay $25 a month and we'll send your content to all of your followers. If there was something like that, I think it would be worth it.
Mm.
I think it would be worth it just to be like, okay, so I have 160 something thousand followers, right? So I don't know how many the what do you call it? The engagement is low for everyone. Like, look at the biggest followers, the people have the biggest followings. Like say Selena Gomez, she has like 400 million followers, something like that, right? You look at one of her regular posts, you would think, oh man, she probably got 200 million likes, right? No. It's like, they're dealing with the same thing we're dealing with. That's just, she might have 4 million likes, 5 million likes, but that's not 400 million. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's a weird thing. So I just think that let your people who want to see your content see it. I don't even know how that ad stuff works. When you buy an ad on Facebook, I don't even know what it does. They'll tell you a little, like I did one for this past weekend. I was in New Mexico and, you get the little analytics back and it's like, 1,000 people clicked the link for your tickets. You know what I mean? Okay. What does that mean though? I don't know how it works now, man, but I think it's more nuanced than just like there's a bubble. I'm just rattling on now.
I got to tell you that I love this topic. I really don't care if the viewers or listeners do, because I love this topic, because I think that there is a lot of BS that you have to deal with. Like 1,000 people clicked the ticket link. Well, was that reflective in the shows that you were doing? Like, was every New Mexico?
Yeah, I don't know. You almost want to do a poll at the show and be like, okay, so who's here because of the you saw my Instagram ad, just so you could find out if it's working, you know? But I remember even like with radio, I remember doing radio for like in the beginning, and you do some radio and then you like get to the show and be like, did this work? Was it worth me getting up at 5 a.m. to go to this radio thing, you know? And I think the club thinks it's worth it because there's a consistency to it that they're like, our guy is on, our club is being talked about every week. But like for that individual comic, did it help them sell tickets? I don't know. I can only think of one time that I know for sure my radio appearance equal ticket sales is because I said something crazy on the radio show, and then people came to the show and they would walk by me and be like, "Oh man, you said this thing," and I was like, "Oh, okay." So then it's like a matter of like, again, it's about the content, it's about the appearance, it's about the things you're saying, it's about being engaging and being like whatever, and it's just who knows what works or doesn't work at this point right now.
Yeah, it's tricky. I think the radio thing can help, but it's like one of the tools in the box, right? Like if you have a half-empty room and you go on a morning radio show, that morning radio show, and I've kind of established myself for that in the afternoons on ESPN Austin, where I talk with a lot of comics, and I'm just trying to let people know, hey, this hilarious person is coming in town, this person is coming in town, and it might help a little bit, but if you have a half-empty room, no one radio show is going to change that with rare exception. Now, what was it that you said on that radio show that filled the
I've been on this radio show for years now, so I knew the guy. And anytime somebody brings something up on the radio, to me it means that you're okay with talking about it or even making jokes. That's the rule I have. You know what I mean? Especially because you know the nature of this. So he was talking about how his mother died, and he was saying that the funeral stuff was expensive, and he was like talking about the funeral stones, and then I just randomly said like, I was like, yeah, I'm sure she has that stripper pole tombstone. You know what I mean? It was like, it was such a funny moment within the room too, because we knew each other. So we were laughing, like, giggling with each other. But that turned into a thing because so many people were like, I heard that and I had to, so you go, you know what I mean? It's like, so you never know but that's the only time I can recall. But, other times people are just like, oh yeah, I didn't know you were in town. I heard you on the radio and I was coming. But, even like one time I was doing I was in a city and, I went live on Instagram, right? I just went live on Instagram, like, hey, everybody, I'm here, I'm doing this. And I was just talking and then some girls came to the show the next day. She was like, oh, I saw you live. And I didn't know you were, so the thing is like, you don't know what's going to hit people, what's going to connect. So like you're saying, it's like a very small piece of this pie of how you get people to come to the shows. Sometimes it's just a club. Like the Mothership, they don't need help, No. They don't need no help at all. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even know if all these people are coming because of me or if it's just, it's just like people go, I'm getting a good show at this club and I'm going to go because it's consistently good shows. I mean, that's what the thing's supposed to do. So relating that to you, you're saying, I talk to comics all the time, so I'm trying to get people to know. So that's what people come to you for. Yeah. So some people might not even come for the particular comic. They just want to come like if you're Siskel and Ebert of like, comics at the comedy club, local comedy clubs, people are just kind of like, oh, I know, that when Trey says something, I got to go see what, he's talking about. So that's, it's all, relative in terms of like, what's helping or not helping.
To your point on the Mothership, because you're right, that club, I mean, it's become a destination for people. People are literally coming to Austin now.
Yeah.
Go to the Mothership to go see KillTony on Monday.
Yep.
And the comic matters very little. I've only seen one weekend show in the last, 2 years or however long the club's been open now that has not sold out. And it was Bonnie McFarlane, which great comedian. There's no reason why she shouldn't sell out, but it was the Sunday of the Super Bowl. So it takes as big of the Super Bowl for that place to not completely sold out. And I'm sure it was probably 4/5 full.
But yeah, and the thing too about that, what makes it great is the fact that they're doing KillTony when they're doing it. People are making a weekend of it. So, You know what I mean? Like you go to the show on the weekend, you pick one of the days. Oh, I'm gonna go see this comic, and then I'm gonna go see this, and then and it's like maybe you get into one or the other, or maybe people that are like not getting into KillTony or coming to my show, or people that like who knows? But anyways,
How many times have you been on KillTony over the years? I feel like you stayed around for KillTony the last time you were here.
yeah, the last two times, but it's so funny how big it is now. So the first time, it's so funny. This is weird because the first time I was like in town, and then Tony's like, "You gotta stay," and I was like, "I don't know, man." I was like, he was like, "Nah, dude, just stay. I'll give you a hotel." And I was like, "All right," I stayed, and it was great. I was like, "Wow, this is fantastic," right? The second time, and I said to him, "Hey, man, I'm doing the shit. You want me to stay?" And he was like, "Oh," he looked at the schedule. He's like, "Yeah, stay." This time, I hit him up when I found out. I was like, "Yo, man, I'm coming into town." He said, "Hold on a second," and he was like, "Man, it's already booked. You got to tell me immediately." So the show's so big now. It just was on Netflix that it's like, I'm an afterthought now. Even though I was on the original KillTony's when there was only 30 people in the crowd at the Comedy Store. You know what I mean?
Were you a part of the belly room shows back when?
Yo, yeah, I used to do the belly room shows and all those shows all the time. I used to it was crazy. So to see where it's gone to what it is now is absolutely amazing. And it's like, that's what I'm saying. You put the work in, that sometimes there's a combination of things that make things work. And it's just like, this is one of those things that really works. So kudos to Tony, who I've known a long time. I've known Tony a long time. And to see what it's doing for him right now is,
It's proof of that whole cliche, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. They've been doing it for so long now and been refining it that now they're getting the opportunity to travel around to arenas and obviously broadcast on Netflix. They're making the most of it.
Yeah, man. But I think I just think that the internet has made it where there are so many things to see and watch. And I think there is enough for everybody. Everything's niche now, Like when they say like, "Oh, that's a niche," like everything's niche, everything, even like the NBA, even like it's all niche because it's like if you're not a sports person, what do you watch? Then it's like, and that's why that's the good and bad of the algorithm, So you have algorithms, and somebody might say to you, "Man, have you seen this new cooking stuff that's going on in the world?" And you're like, "No, I haven't," but that's their algorithm. You know what I mean? So, maybe people are into dogs. Maybe you're into but the only thing I don't like about algorithms is that it doesn't allow you to explore and see new things. It's like whatever you start looking for, they go, "Well, that's what he likes. Here we go." You know what I mean? Like you look at one, trans girl, and now all of a sudden, you know what I mean? Like it was so funny. I sent a pic. There was sometimes on Instagram, you see these trans girls and you don't know. You know what I mean? And then I have a friend of mine who's really like, "Man, I would never," So it was as a joke. I said, "Hey, check this girl out," and he's like, "Damn," and I'm like, "Trans," and he's like, "What? Shut up!" But now for 4 months, my algorithm was just it's like, "Oh man, what?" So you know what I mean? Like it's like, okay, that was cool and all, but I like other things. But you don't get to see that until you start looking, So what I'm saying to get back to it is that I think that's why everything becomes niche. So I think that's why you see ratings are down in this sport and that sport. But the people that are really into it, they're seeing it, they're watching it, I think it's all much to do about nothing, The NBA still signed a $78 billion deal or something like that. What was it? They just signed some huge deal, and after 2 years of talking about how nobody's watching the NBA ratings are down, I think the people that paid that money are like, "Oh no, they're not. We're still selling a lot of refrigerators and clothes and Coke and Budweiser and you know what I mean." So.
Heck, even the WNBA just signed a record TV deal, and they're basically riding the Caitlin Clark Angel Reese wave, where ratings are up, attendance figures are up, but it's really specific to games that Caitlin Clark is a part of. But the WNBA very wisely went to the whatever TV network, ESPN or whoever else, and is like, "Look, people are really catching on to the whole professional women's basketball thing. Pay us." And ESPN ponied up for that deal.
Yeah, but I think that the thing about it sucks because anytime you have a discussion about this, it turns into this sexist conversation or something as if that's what it is, and it's really just dollars and cents, And to me, it's about preference, It's just about preference, I don't watch college basketball until the NCAA tournament because I think it's boring. I don't think it's as good. I think that
It's a bad product because they're trying to
it's
take what the NBA does now, the whole threes and shots around the basket. But
yeah,
they're not professional shooters. They're a bunch of amateurs still, even if they're getting paid.
it's a yeah. I just so I'm not a huge fan of I'm not even a huge fan of college football. I
Hmm.
like the highest level of things. So speaking in that realm, I don't like the WNBA because
Yeah.
it's not as good as the NBA. It's just not. I don't like it. Doesn't look the same. It looks like a completely different sport to me. But that being said, I did tune in to be like, Caitlin Clark, let me see what's going on, And then I was like, damn, this girl's balling. So basketball, hockey has a great advantage
Hmm.
because no matter what level you're watching hockey, I don't care what level it is. If you're at the park and if you're at like a little arena watching some little kids play, that is the most engaging sport that there is. It really is. There's something super engaging about hockey, man. You know what I mean? So they have that advantage of where the level it may look faster, it may look more aggressive, it may look, but there's something about it that is still like beautiful to watch, right? Basketball's not like that. It's just not like that. You want to see the strongest, fastest, most agile, athletic people playing that sport, and that's when it looks the best. Anything else falls short, in my opinion. So that's why I feel like they don't show Division III basketball on TV. You know why? Because it sucks. You know what I mean? So it's so when you look at and then there's other women's sports that don't have this downfall. Like women's volleyball, I
Yep.
think should be a professional sport. I think it should be a professional sport. It should be there should be a league, and I think that it would be a tremendous success to me. I don't know why they don't put money in that. I mean, when the Olympics come around, I love watching women's volleyball for a lot of reasons. One, it's a slam dunk every play. It's the most exciting play every play in volleyball. And hey, let's be honest, these girls are fine as hell.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they have that advantage on the men. You know what I mean? Because like the women, women's sports, women I'm talking about advertisement, they're the ones that make the most money,
Hmm.
like the NIL deals and all that kind of stuff. It'll be some swimmer you never heard of making all this money, and you're like, what's going on there? You look at a picture and go, oh, okay. So that's just an added bonus. All I'm saying is that's just an added bonus that a lot of male athletes just don't have. Like a male athlete has to be the greatest male athlete he can possibly be. There's nothing else to compensate for that. So you have you might have a female athlete that's maybe not the best in her sport, but she's fine as hell. So it's making up for a lot of that. So I think they have a great advantage. So I don't know why put money in other sports that women are doing, but I'm not a fan of WNBA basketball.
I love that you brought up women's volleyball because you did not know this because you just brought it up. They actually have started a professional women's league that is rooted in cities that have good college teams. So it's called the LOVB League. They pronounce it the Love League.
Oh, I love that. I'm gonna have to look that up, man. I didn't know. See, again, they're not putting the money they should put into it, because there's nothing to subsidize it like the NBA or the NFL or if they had because I guarantee you this, not to get off subject, but I think that the flag football leagues are going to start being big as well. I think,
It's huge in youth,
yeah,
Derek. It's
yeah,
more
yeah,
popular, even in Texas. It's as or more popular than tackle football, especially at the younger levels, because a lot of parents are wisely
yeah.
reluctant to put their kids in tackle football and risk head injuries, especially when most of them aren't even going to end up playing in high school, college, professionally, or whatever. But the other reason why I love that you brought up women's volleyball is because women's volleyball is the best argument that I have for what women's basketball should do to maximize its viewership potential. And that's make sure the parameters of the court fit the athletic abilities of those playing it. The NBA would probably benefit from raising the rims by a foot. Women's basketball would benefit from lowering rims by a foot. I only know that because the women's volleyball net is a foot shorter than the men's net, and they're able to play above the net as a result of that. That makes a big difference in people who are accustomed to a sport being played a certain way at its highest level.
Yes, yes, yes. But I think that they're not going to do that for the same reason that a lot of men's basketball players don't shoot the ball underhand. It's a sort of an ego thing. I believe.
Maybe so, but it's also like the infrastructure is already in place around the country. All rims are 10 feet. So to
Yeah,
all
yeah,
of a
yeah, yeah.
sudden try and drop rims down a foot specific to one
Well, it'd be easy in
gender.
the pros though, because it just yeah. Then it turns into like the problem is when politics come into play and people, that's the biggest problem. Like to get that out of it, it's like sports is a meritocracy. That's the beauty of it, and it's like the best thrive, and no matter what, no matter their race, their color, their whatever it is, but people will still try to put some sort of like try to put politics on it. Like when you watch Caitlin Clark play, she like my God, she's like she's going. Let me see how the men play. All right, I want to play like that, and then I'm gonna do what they do. It's a Steph Curry. Steph Curry is just really, if not the most influential basketball player ever, he's right in the top three. In terms of like the what it did to the sport. You got Magic and Bird. You count them as one person, really. That era that they did. You got Michael Jordan, and you got Steph Curry, and there's really no one else. I mean, I can't think of anyone else that I go, oh, wow, that person influenced the sport more than anyone else. But those three entities, I think, have changed everything about the sport. And it's trickled down to like, look, Steph Curry's changed college basketball. He's changed women's basketball. So here's like Caitlin Clark was like, oh, wait a minute, I could do this. So if I work on shooting like this, and then everything else comes into play. Oh man! I mean, first of all, the girl's good. She's great. She's a great basketball player.
Yeah.
So there's just not enough of hers. There's not enough Caitlin Clarks in that sport.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about Steph Curry versus LeBron James in that regard, about how much they changed the sport, because LeBron probably more belongs in that Tom Brady category of guys who have revolutionized how you take care of yourself throughout your career to be able to maintain a high level of play versus the style that he plays basketball, other people trying to emulate that. Whereas Steph Curry, you're right. I mean, I coached my son's 8-year-old basketball team this last year, and it was a lot of fun. It was a good team. We went undefeated, won a championship. There were teams that we were playing, mind you, 8 years old, Eric, so they're having a hard time getting it up from the free throw line, that are
right.
trying to take three-pointers.
Just chucking threes, right?
They're trying to take three-pointers from the college
Yeah.
three-point line, and the coaches aren't doing anything about it. I told my guys, I'm like, if you take a three, if it doesn't hit the rim, you're coming out of the game, because
Well, I think that I didn't put LeBron James in that is because he's built different.
yeah.
That's not something people can do. That's not something people can do, what he's done. And he spent $1 million. He spends $1 million a year on his body. That's like the rumor, the urban legend is that what he does, right? But it's like, that's something different. It's special. You know what I mean? That's special, even more so than Tom Brady, because you're talking about somebody that has visible athletic powers. You know what I mean? Like it's visible when you see this guy. You go, man. Like, but you go, well, he's also 6'7", 255 with 6% body fat that still can jump out of the gym at 40 years old. That's not something that has changed the game. That is something that is awe-inspiring. That is something that is like what you know what I mean? You admire the thing that no one else can do. These other people is different, Like there was some social things involved with like what Magic and Bird did to the league, bringing it into making it a viable product that people had to watch. And then Michael Jordan making it a global phenomenon and being that same thing that LeBron has, this sort of athletic, but always coming through. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Like and so you don't, that's different. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. I just think I think it's somehow all connected. It's like there's just a lot of there's a lot of things to look at now. And how do you capture the public eye? How do you capture the public attention? And it's whatever it's going to take. If it takes like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese having this like weird fight with each other, and it's making people go, ooh, I gotta watch this. Fine, okay. If they're getting TV deals and they're gonna actually make a profit for the first time ever, that's the thing people don't like to talk about. They don't make money. They just don't make money. I mean, they're subsidized by the NBA, and it's like, what are you supposed to do? I mean, nobody cares about that. They think, to me, if like, then again, it turns into this like sexist argument, and I think it's stupid. But you know what should happen? It's like Taylor Swift should buy a WNBA team. Beyonce should buy a WNBA team. Shakira should buy a WNBA team. The Kardashians should buy a WNBA team. And then you make it about that, you know? If Taylor Swift had a WNBA team, she was like, support my team, you know what I mean? You know, then it'd be like, all right, then it would like, you know, all the women watching Housewives of Pick a City would be like, oh, I got to go watch this, you know? Like, it's like this whole idea that like Taylor Swift helped the NFL. The NFL is the #1 program on 7 networks. You know what I mean? They didn't need Taylor Swift. You know what I'm saying? The Super Bowl is the most watched television show ever, every year, all the time. So it's like, you know, take all that stardom and everything you're trying to do. If you know, support it that way. Do something like that. I don't know.
By the same token, they also weren't afraid to utilize her presence at all those Chief games over the last 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like, okay, because you know why? Because like women who never really watched the sport now were like, yay, Taylor's boyfriend scored a touchdown, like just out of nowhere. You know what I mean? So they were like, all right, cool. We're capturing a new market. So now we can get different advertisers. Let's get the tampon advertisers now, you know what I mean? The official tampon of the NFL, you know what I mean? Like whatever, it's all about money. You know what I mean? So it's so weird that like, you know, it's like, infuse money into female sports, women's athletics. How can you like do that? And then you'll see people come, you know? But until that happens, don't get mad that people have preference that they want to see a better version of this. And it just so happens to be, that's the men, you know? There's only 2 choices and the other one's better. So, you know what I mean? That's why we watch it.
So since we last spoke, your kid is now a year older. How's fatherhood going, man?
It's the greatest thing. Yeah, he's 14 months. You know what I mean?
So he's finally turning into a little bit of a human versus the ball of mush that he was the last time we spoke.
Yeah, when he was just adorable. Now he's just a crying, you know, petulant little mess, right? You know?
Let's see. 14 months means he's probably starting to walk or he's about to start walking, huh?
Oh, no, he was walking right before his first birthday.
Damn.
Yeah, he was walking and he was already walking like, he was probably walking like around 11 months he could stand up, you know. But like right before his birthday, I had this video on Instagram of it. Like he just was standing next to a chair and then TV was over here and he just walked towards the TV and he pointed at the TV like this and then just was doing something else. And I was like, I got it on video. I was like, oh, wow. Because I was recording him and I was like, what? You know, so he just, you know, he's running. He's just, oh my God. They just run, man. They're just running. He knows when he's doing something wrong now, too, you know? And he's like,
look of guilt on his face when he's done something.
Yeah. He's done something wrong. I go, hey. And then he just runs. You know what I mean? So he's babbling right now a lot. He thinks he's talking.
Oh, that's really cool. Do you have a favorite book to read him?
Yeah, I try, man. You know, we read these books. He'll bring the book over. We have these books that like you can't tear them, you know. So they're like, you know, this like Itsy Bitsy Spider and like all the, you know, all these little, you know, these books. You know, he'll bring it to me. Hey, you know, I'll say, okay, let's read it. Then he'll just try to turn the page. You know what I mean? He'll try to turn the page himself. He'll grab the book and he'll look at it. He's doing this cute thing now where he holds the book up and he just goes blah 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 blah. You know what I mean? Like as if he's doing what I'm doing. You know?
That's
but
great.
It's like all that stuff's adorable.
Well, I'm just now realizing this. So you just crossed the year threshold. The 1-year-old birthday party is one of the most self-serving things that parents can do in a child's life. The 1-year-old has no idea what's going on. You're essentially celebrating keeping that life form alive for that very first year. How did y'all celebrate the first birthday?
Well, see, I'm old man now, so I'm not having that nonsense. He's not gonna remember first birthday. What are we talking about? We're not having a big ass party with balloons and clowns and stuff like that for some 1-year-old. We'll just make a little AI video to show him when he's like 15, like, hey, look who was at look, man, Taylor Swift was at your first birthday party. We went all out for your first birthday. No, we just went to dinner. You know what I mean? We had a couple people over who have kids. It wasn't anything big. We had some pizza, and then her and I went out to a nice dinner, you know? Because I was like, we're celebrating that we made it. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm talking about. I knew you'd celebrate it the right way.
He didn't do anything. What did he do? little parasite. You know what I mean? So we went out to dinner, and that's how we did it.
I love it. All right. Last year, when you were coming through town, you performed at the Mothership. I had the pleasure of seeing your act at that time. Freaking hilarious. Thank you for putting on such a great show. Where's
Well,
the act
another one.
now? Are you close to putting it on tape and releasing a special for
You
the
know
people?
what? That's the thing. Specials are, it's not the same anymore. You know, they not, it's not the same. Specials aren't special anymore.
You
So it
mean
just
because there's a
depends.
hundred different specials that come out every month now?
Yeah, it's tough. So I'm thinking about like, I've just been trying to release material myself.
Hmm.
I'm probably gonna just put something on tape, and do it myself, put it on YouTube. But at this point right now, I'm doing so many other things. I was in a movie last year. I've been doing a lot of directing. I directed like three of Matt Rife specials, Martin Amini special, and then this little a special Matt Rife and Paul Aaliyah did like a sort of talk show thing. So I'm moving in that direction too. So so we'll see where the wind takes me right now. But I'm evolving, and you come see me, you're gonna have a good time. I mean, I always put on a good show, but like when in terms of like getting to the next point of like their specials aren't doing for people what they once did. So if you could do it yourself, you put it out on YouTube, you clip it up, and you get it out to your fans. It's niche. You know what I mean? I mean, I would like for someone like Netflix to be like, hey, we're gonna, like, it used to be that you think that they go, we think you're really funny, and we need to show our 200 million subscribers how funny you are. So let's do that. They don't do that anymore. Now they're like, no, we need you to bring more people to our platform so more people can sign up so we can make more money. So it's not necessarily about the art form anymore so much as it's about the algorithm and getting subscriptions. And once that becomes the focal point, the art form becomes second, third, fourth on the list. And that's the sad part. So what we have to do as creators is you got to do it yourself. That's the beauty of where we're living right now. You can get some cameras. It's not that as expensive as you think. You could put out something good. You put it out on YouTube, and then you see what happens.
How has directing stand-up specials impacted how you go about performing stand-up, if at all, Eric? Because I'm sure that's
Oh, it's not. It's not. I actually brought how I perform stand-up, my understanding of the messaging and the performance of it. I just brought that to like trying to bring the best out of whoever I'm directing. You know what I mean? It's like just put it. I like doing it. I like that process. Like I go out on the road with Matt, and I watch him, and then we talk a lot, and it's like, hey, what are you trying to say here? Is this what you want to do? Like, then, I like the technical stuff of it too. Like, what angles are we getting? Like, are we getting crowd shots? Are we getting a good crane shot? Like, how much coverage? So that has nothing to do with, say, how you perform stand-up, because trying to capture a good stand-up show on video is very difficult. It's the reason why people can't really name a great special unless the person is so like dynamic, like Chappelle, for instance, that you're just more, let's see what he's saying. But like, that's a hard thing to capture. It really is. It really is. Because in a room, special things are happening in the room to make what's happening on stage vibe with the people in the room. It's hard to capture that and show the people at home that this is what's happening because they're not there. So it becomes a different thing. And when you're filming stand-up specials, you have to remember it's a television show. This isn't a live show. It's a television show. So you're like manipulating this and that, and you're using 4 shows and piecing it all together, and it's like, it's not the same thing. And that's why it's hard to do. That's why you don't see a lot of great ones.
Yeah, well, you lose that intimacy when you're just watching it on screen. Weirdly enough, I just realized I probably like watching crowd work specials. Speaking of Matt Rife, crowd work specials more than I do actual stand-up specials. But I think that's because you're put into the crowd a little bit more, so you're seeing some of that back and forth and some of the viciousness that can obviously go along with it too.
Yeah, so we did a crowd with, but see, that was a lot of work, and I don't even want to tell you all the inside of that. Like, it's not, that was a difficult, arduous process to get that on film like that.
Really?
Yeah. People think that it's just like, oh, we just did one show and then we just saw what happened. Nah, that's not what happened.
Well, you can only shoot parts. You can only shoot specific stuff from parts of rooms because you don't want the audience to be changing
Now you
from one
understand
shot to the
how
next.
I know, and now you understand how difficult it is to
Wow.
to do that. So it's like that's why you don't see that a lot. But I had a plan. I had a vision, and we executed it. And then that special is in the top three, most viewed of the last year. So you know what I mean. So I love it. I've known Matt for a long time since he was like 16 years old, and we've been in each other's lives ever since. It's like. He was opening for me and sleeping on my couch, and he was on my phone plan. And now he's a multi-millionaire flying me private to go do shows with him. You know what I mean? So it's like that's how, and I love every second of it because I have a sort of like big brotherly, fatherly relationship with him that I want to see him succeed. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like I never achieved that kind of success, but I never think of it like that, because I'm a part of this success and I love it. And I still have my own thing. I got my own life. I got a wife. I got a kid. I bought a house. I got money in the bank. I'm great. You know what I mean? And I'm changing careers, and I appreciate what I have done. I look at my IMDb and I'm like, oh, I didn't know I was in 20 movies. You know what I mean? I always think of my career as like a treadmill set to one, and you don't think you're doing anything until you look back after 20 years and you go, man. I'm high up now, so it is
That's
what it is.
interesting because I would assume that you're one of the more recognizable faces out there because of all the great stuff you've done on television and movies over the years.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people, there's a lot of like, again, it's niche, man. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, it's like there's workaholics fans. That's great. There's dying up here fans. And that's why I'm still have a career. That's why I'm still at the mothership. That's why I'm still people asking me to do their radio shows. And, you know what I mean? That's why it's still a thing. So it's like, you want everything, everybody thinks they're going to achieve some like super stardom and they're going to be like doing this thing. No, sometimes you just have a nice, steady, great career. And you have to appreciate it as it goes along. And then you look around and go, oh, this is the fruits of my labor, and you go, I'm doing all right. And so that's how I feel about it.
God, I'm still so bummed that you guys didn't get one more season for I'm Dying Up Here. I think I was the one non
I
50
know.
plus year old woman watching that show, but God, it was compelling television.
I know, man. It is what it is. It's just
It
there
is
was a
what
lot
it
of
is.
behind the scenes stuff. So it's like you get. I'm upset that they haven't. Someone else hasn't bought it and at least played those two seasons. Like I keep wondering like when is it gonna get to Netflix or like one of those places, but it just hasn't.
Yeah, it should. It was great television. It was an ensemble cast too. There's
Yeah,
no
I would
reason why it
love
shouldn't.
for it to get on. I would love. Well, we'll see. Because then people will be like, "Oh man!" It's funny how people will watch a show that was canceled and think, "Oh man, is this new?"
Well, there was an unbelievable cliffhanger at the end of that second season. Also, anyhow, I'm not
Hey
gonna
man,
say too much.
you're opening up old wounds.
I'm trying to bite my tongue right now, so don't get you going. He is Eric Griffin. Has definitely made a big mark in the world of entertainment, especially in comedy. Even more certain in stand-up comedy. I would tell you to go to comedymothership.com to snag tickets for this weekend shows, but they're all sold out. He just did
Sadly,
this.
it's sold out. Oh man.
Boo-hoo. He
But you
just
know
did
what?
this.
I'm gonna try to work on some Eric and Friends in Austin, in a couple months. And so if you didn't get to go to that show, you'll be able to come to one of those shows. So I'll keep you posted on that too.
Oh heck yeah, those
Then we
shows.
can then we can talk again.
Those shows are very underrated. The Anne Friend shows that happen midweek, so I can't wait to
Yeah.
check that out. I will almost certainly be in the crowd for that one. In the meantime, Eric, thank you as always for the time, man. Safe travels to and from town this weekend.
Thank you, my friend. I'll talk to you next time.